Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. And today we're diving into something that I think is pretty game-changing in the world of AI, and that's Gemini Deep Research.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes you just wish you had that, super smart research assistant that could just go out there and find everything you needed on a topic.
Right.
That's really what Gemini Deep Research promises to be, and we're going to unpack exactly how it works, why it matters, and why you should care.
Yeah, and we've been looking at this for quite a while now.
Yeah, we've been digging through hands-on reviews, talking to the engineers, even looking at some of the discussions happening online.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's one of those tools that has the potential to really change how we approach learning and research.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly is Gemini Deep Research?
Well, you can think of it as an AI tool that's designed to handle all that like really in-depth research that can take hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Like think of it as your really capable digital research assistant.
Right. Instead of me spending hours and hours going through search results and articles and trying to synthesize it all,
Exactly.
Gemini Deep Research just does that for me.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that it doesn't just blindly search, like you said.
Yeah.
It actually creates a structured plan, a multi-step plan
Right.
based on your query. So it says, okay, here's what I'm going to do to get you that information.
And I think what's really interesting about this, too, is that it's not just a black box.
Yeah.
You can actually see the plan.
Absolutely.
And I think you can even edit the plan, too, right?
You can review it.
Yeah.
You can tweak it. You can add, you can remove things.
Right.
And so it gives you that level of transparency. So you're not just like, okay, go research this thing and I hope you come back with something good.
Right.
You're actually involved in the process.
Right. So I get to tell it what to look for.
Exactly.
And kind of shape it a little bit.
Exactly.
Even before it even starts, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like having input on the strategy that your research assistant's going to use.
Exactly. And then once it's you're happy with that plan, then the AI kicks in. And it just starts going through all these sources.
Right. It autonomously searches and analyzes just a huge number of online sources.
Yeah, I was reading that it could be
It can be.
dozens, if not hundreds.
Hundreds. Yeah, depending on the complexity of the topic.
Yeah.
It could be looking at, all sorts of different websites, articles.
I mean, it could be looking at scientific papers to blog posts to
Exactly.
YouTube videos to who knows what, right?
And it's using its, reasoning capabilities to understand that information.
Yeah.
To find patterns, to connect the dots, and then to synthesize all of that into a comprehensive report for you.
Right. And it's not just dumping a bunch of text on you.
Right.
It's actually organizing it really nicely.
Right. It's usually well organized. It's got headings. It's got bullet points.
Yeah.
And here's the really important part. It includes citations and links.
Right.
Back to the original sources.
Yeah. So if I'm reading something, I'm like, wait a minute, is this really true? I can just click the link and go right back to the source.
Absolutely. And that's so important for building confidence in AI-generated, findings.
Yeah.
If you can't verify where that information came from,
Right.
how do you know if you can trust it?
It's like citing your sources, right?
Yeah, right.
Like you would for a research paper.
Exactly.
And I think one of the biggest things about this, too, is that, at first this was only available to people who had the paid version of Gemini.
Right.
But now it's available for free.
For everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
It's
right?
a huge step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really democratizes access to this kind of research.
I mean, I remember when I first started looking into this, I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to pay for another subscription.
Right.
But now that it's free,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be using this.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to a trend that we're seeing of embedding these AI functionalities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into everyday tools, right?
Yeah.
So Google wants this to be just part of how you work.
Right. Well, I've been using it and I'm really impressed with it.
Yeah.
So for people who are listening who haven't tried it yet, it's free. Give it a shot. I think you'll be really impressed.
I think so too.
But there is a limit for the free version.
There is, yeah. There's a limit on the number of deep research reports you can generate each month.
Yeah, I think it's 5 per month.
I think it's 5, yeah.
Which is still a lot, I think.
Yeah, for the average user, that's probably plenty.
Yeah, if you need more than that.
Then you might want to consider the paid version.
Right, and it's also integrated into Google Workspace.
Yeah.
So if you're a business user, you might already have access to it.
Yeah, it's part of those plans as well, although the pricing and the specifics might vary depending on your plan.
Right.
So you might want to check with your IT department or your Google rep.
Yeah, so we talked about what it is, who can use it.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of the really cool features. So we talked about the research plan,
Right.
the web searching. What else is there that our listeners should know about?
Well, I think the comprehensive reports that it generates are a big selling point.
Yeah.
These aren't just like, short little summaries.
Right.
They're really detailed. They often uncover insights that you might not have thought of.
Yeah.
They highlight the main challenges related to your query.
Yeah.
And they can even identify potential future trends.
Right. So it's not just telling me what is, it's also telling me like what could be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's doing that by, looking at all these different sources
Yeah.
and kind of connecting the dots.
So like an example would be like, let's say I wanted to research the future of electric vehicles.
Right.
It wouldn't just tell me like, here are the electric vehicles that are available today.
Right.
It might tell me like, based on these battery technologies that are being developed,
Exactly.
this is what we could see in the future. Or based on, consumer demand, based on social media sentiment, this is how, the market might shift.
It might even look at like government regulations.
Right.
And say, okay, well, based on these regulations, we might see more incentives for electric vehicles.
Yeah. So it's really comprehensive.
Yep.
It's not just like a surface level thing.
It's digging deep, it's connecting the dots,
Yeah.
and it's giving you a really comprehensive view of that topic.
And of course, we already talked about this, but I think it's worth mentioning again.
Yeah.
All of this is cited.
Right.
You can go back to the original sources,
You can click on the links.
which is really important
Absolutely.
for, trusting the information.
Especially for academics, researchers.
Right.
Anybody who needs to really verify that information, that's a key feature.
And what's another feature that you really like about this?
Well, I love the integration with Google Workspace.
Oh, yeah.
So you can export these reports directly into Google Docs.
Which is so convenient because I use Google Docs for everything.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't, right?
So I don't have to like copy and paste and reformat everything.
Exactly. It's just seamless.
It's just there.
And then you can edit it. You can add your own thoughts. You can use it as a starting point.
It's basically giving me a research paper, like a framework in minutes.
Like a first draft
Yeah.
that you can then build on.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people are going to find really valuable,
Yeah, I think so too.
especially students,
Oh, absolutely.
researchers,
Yeah.
content creators.
Anybody who needs to write something
Yeah.
that requires, some research and some backing.
Yeah.
It's a great tool for that.
And it's not just text.
No.
There's also audio.
Right.
So it can generate an audio summary
A natural sounding audio summary
of the report.
of the report. Yeah.
So I could be like, going for a walk
Yeah.
and listening to my research report.
Listening to your research. Yeah.
Which is kind of wild.
It's like having a personalized podcast
Yeah.
just for you.
On whatever topic you're interested in.
Yep. Exactly.
What do you think about that feature?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it makes it really accessible
Yeah.
for people who, maybe don't have time to sit down and read a long report
Right. Or who just prefer to listen.
or who prefer to listen.
Yeah. I know some people are auditory learners, so this
Yeah.
is perfect for them.
And it's great for multitasking.
Yeah.
You can be doing other things while you're listening to it.
So I could be like cooking dinner
Exactly.
and listening to my research report.
Yeah.
So I'm learning while I'm cooking,
There you go.
which is awesome.
Efficient.
Yeah. And for those of us who are like, wait a minute, how did the AI come up with this?
Right.
There are some transparency features.
There are, yeah. So there's a feature called show thinking
Right.
and another one called sites browsed.
Yeah.
So you can actually see the AI's thought process.
Yeah.
You can see the websites that it consulted.
Yeah.
You can see how it arrived at its conclusions.
So it can see like the journey it took to get to the answer.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because, a lot of people are skeptical of AI,
Right.
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But when you can see how it's working,
It builds trust.
it builds trust.
Yeah.
And it also helps you to understand
And there's limitations.
the limitations.
Yeah.
And maybe even how to improve it,
Yeah.
right? Like if I see that it's only looking at certain types of sources,
Right.
I might say, okay, well, maybe you should also look at these types of sources. So I
Yeah.
think that's really valuable.
Yeah. I think so too.
And then there's another integration that I think is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
And that's NotebookLM.
NotebookLM.
So NotebookLM is basically like this AI-powered notebook.
Yeah, you can think of it as your personal knowledge repository.
Right, so I can put all my notes in there.
Yeah, you can upload documents, you can add your own thoughts,
Right.
and then you can ask it questions.
And it'll like connect the dots for me.
Yeah, it'll find information, it'll synthesize it, it'll generate summaries.
It's like my own personal yeah.
that you're building
Yeah.
over time.
And the cool thing is that you can connect it with deep research.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can import those reports
Right.
and all the linked sources into NotebookLM.
So it's not just a one-off report.
No,
Yeah.
it's like building this interconnected web of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then you can ask NotebookLM even more specific questions.
Right.
You can identify connections between different reports.
Yeah.
You can even generate audio overviews that synthesize information from your entire knowledge base.
So it's like taking deep research to the next level.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's talk about some real-world applications.
Yeah.
Because I think this is where it gets really exciting.
Absolutely.
So, we've been talking about like all this cool stuff.
Right.
But how can people actually use this
Yeah.
in their life?
Well, I think business intelligence is a huge area
Yeah.
where this can be really impactful.
So, like, what are some examples?
Well, think about competitive analysis.
Yeah.
So you could use deep research to quickly gather information on your competitors.
Right. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, what are their products? What are their prices?
Yeah.
What are their marketing strategies?
What are people saying about them?
What's the customer sentiment?
Yeah.
And you can get all of that information synthesized in a really easy to digest report.
And that would normally take me like days.
Days, if not weeks,
Yeah.
to do manually.
Yeah.
And now you can do it in minutes.
Which is huge in the business world.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
things move so fast.
Yeah.
You need to be able to make decisions quickly.
Right.
And to do that, you need to have the right information.
And it's not just about like keeping tabs on your competition.
No.
It's also about finding new opportunities.
Right.
Right? So like market research.
Market research.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can use deep research to identify emerging trends, to find unmet needs.
Like, what are people talking about
Yeah.
that there's no solution for yet?
Exactly.
And then maybe that's a business opportunity. Yeah. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and in fact, Google reportedly used deep research to identify potential in the B2B productivity software market.
Really?
Yeah, so they were using their own tool
To find new opportunities?
to find new opportunities.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what about understanding your target audience?
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
So deep research can analyze, online behavior,
Yeah.
preferences,
Yeah.
what people are saying in forums and reviews,
Right.
pain points, what are the problems that people are having?
What are they complaining about?
Exactly. And then you can use that information to develop products and services
Yeah.
that actually meet those needs.
That actually solve those problems.
Right.
And not just products and services, but like marketing messages.
Marketing messages, yeah.
Like what kind of language resonates with people?
It
What
could-
kind of images?
What channels are they using?
Yeah.
Where are they hanging out online?
Right. So it's not just giving me like basic demographic data. It's really giving me a deep understanding
A much richer understanding
of my audience.
of your audience, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what about finance?
Well, in finance, you could use it for financial analysis.
Yeah, okay.
So you could look at market capitalization trends.
Right.
You could identify potential investment opportunities.
Like which stocks are going to go up.
Well, it's not going to tell you that for sure,
Right.
but it can give you some insights.
Right. Like based on all these factors,
Yeah.
the stock might be a good investment.
Exactly.
And then I can do my own due diligence
Yeah.
and decide if I want to invest or not.
Exactly.
But it's giving me a starting point.
It's giving you a starting point.
Which is really helpful because
Yeah.
there's so much information out there.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's hard to know where to start.
So this is like a way to filter all that information
Exactly.
and get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond business,
Yeah.
what are some other applications?
Well, staying current in your industry is a big one.
Right, because things are changing so fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, I feel like every day there's a new AI tool,
Right.
a new breakthrough.
A new trend.
It's hard to keep up.
It is. And so deep research can help you to filter through all of that noise
Yeah.
and identify the most important developments.
The signal from the noise.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And then for content creators,
Oh, yeah.
think about the potential for generating well-researched content
Right.
for your blogs, your articles, your videos.
So instead of me like spending hours and hours reading
yeah.
all these articles and trying to come up with my own ideas,
Deep research can do a lot of that legwork for you.
it's like giving me a starting point,
Exactly.
and then I can add my own creativity.
your own insights, your own perspective,
Right.
and it can really elevate the quality of your content.
Because it's more in depth.
It's more in depth, it's more insightful,
Yeah.
it's more credible.
Yeah, because it's based on all this research. Exactly.
And then for people who just want to learn,
Yeah,
like for personal growth,
personal growth.
this is a great tool.
Absolutely.
So if I want to learn about the science of longevity,
Right.
or I want to learn about a historical event.
Whatever you're curious about,
Yeah.
deep research can give you a structured learning experience
Yeah.
that's tailored to your interests.
And it's not just like giving me a bunch of links.
No.
It's actually synthesizing the information.
It's connecting the dots.
It's making it easy to understand.
It's making it engaging.
Yeah.
It's making it fun.
Yeah. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Because learning should be fun.
Yeah. It shouldn't be a chore.
Right.
It should be something that you're excited about.
Exactly.
And we've also seen examples of people using it for like market analysis.
Right.
So like, if I wanted to understand the AI market for small businesses.
Deep research could give you a really detailed report on that.
Yeah.
It could tell you who the key players are. What are the trends?
What are the challenges?
What are the opportunities?
Exactly.
And we've even seen people using it for investment research,
Yeah.
which I think is fascinating.
Yeah. So you can actually use deep research to help you identify potential investment opportunities.
So it's not going to tell me, like, buy this stock.
No.
But it's going to give me, like, a bunch of factors to consider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it might look at things like positive news mentions,
Right.
patent filings.
Like, is this company innovating institutional buying activity?
Yeah. Are the big institutions buying this stock?
Social media sentiment.
Yeah. What are people saying about this company online?
Insider trading.
Yeah. Are the insiders buying or selling this stock?
Right. So it's giving me all this information.
It's giving you a holistic view of that company.
And then I can make my own decision.
Exactly.
But it's giving me a starting point.
Really good starting point.
Yeah, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about all these applications, but how can people actually get the most out of this tool?
Well, I think prompt engineering is really important.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So the way you phrase your request,
Right.
your prompt to the AI
Right.
is going to have a big impact on the results that you get.
So, like, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Basically. So if I give it a really vague prompt,
Right.
I'm going to get a really vague report.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy with the results.
So give me an example of, like, a good prompt.
Okay, so instead of saying like, AI in healthcare,
Right.
which is very broad,
Yeah.
you might say something like, analyze the current applications and potential future impact of generative AI
Okay.
in diagnostic imaging for early cancer detection.
Okay, so that's very specific.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
It tells the AI exactly what you're looking for.
And it gives it, like, a scope.
A scope, yeah.
Like, what kind of AI?
Yeah.
What industry?
Yeah.
What application?
What time frame?
Yeah, so the more specific you are,
The better.
the better the results.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then also think about the type of information you're looking for.
Okay.
So do you want factual data?
Okay.
Do you want expert opinions?
Right.
Do you want emerging trends?
Okay.
Do you want comparative analyses?
Right, so tell the AI what you want.
Tell the AI what you want.
Yeah.
Because it can't read your mind.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good idea to review the research plan.
Yes, absolutely.
So before the AI even starts doing its thing,
Take a look at the plan.
make sure it's on the right track.
Make sure it's understanding your request.
And if it's not,
You can edit it.
you can edit
You
it.
can add things. You can remove things.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because it's like you're collaborating with the AI. You're not just like letting it do its own thing.
You're guiding it.
You're guiding it.
Yeah,
And I think that's going to lead to better results.
absolutely.
And then also don't forget about the integrations.
Right.
So we talked about exporting to Google Docs.
Yeah.
We talked about the audio overview. Yeah.
And we talked about NotebookLM.
Yeah.
So use those integrations.
They're there for a reason.
Yeah, they're going to make your life easier.
They're going to make the research process more efficient,
Yeah.
and they're going to help you to get more out of the tool.
Okay, so now let's talk about the competition.
Yeah,
Because there are other AI research tools out there.
there are.
So how does Gemini Deep Research stack up?
Well, we've seen some comparisons with Perplexity,
Right.
which is another popular AI research tool.
Yeah.
And it seems like Perplexity is really good for quick searches.
Right.
Like if you have a single question.
Yeah, like what's the capital of France?
Exactly.
Right.
Perplexity is going to give you the answer very quickly.
Yeah.
But deep research is more about in-depth analysis.
Yeah, right. It's going to look at more sources.
Yeah, it's going to give you a more comprehensive report.
So it's more like a research assistant
Exactly.
than a quick answer tool.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's OpenAI,
Right.
which is another big player in the AI space. You know, and they have their own research capabilities.
Yeah.
And from what we've seen, OpenAI might be slightly more technically deep
Okay.
in very specialized fields.
So like if I'm a PhD student in physics,
Yeah,
OpenAI might be a better tool for me.
it might be.
But for the average person,
Yeah.
Gemini Deep Research is probably more than enough.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Which is a big advantage,
Yeah.
especially if you're just starting out
Right.
or if you're on a budget.
Okay, so it sounds like it really depends on your needs.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of research you're doing,
Exactly.
and how much you're willing to pay.
Right.
Because obviously the paid tools are going to have more features,
Yeah.
and they might be more powerful.
They might be, yeah.
But for most people,
Yeah.
the free version of Gemini Deep Research is probably going to be more than enough.
I think so too.
Okay, so let's talk about the limitations,
Yeah.
because no tool is perfect.
Right.
So what are some of the limitations of deep research? Well, the main limitation for free users is the cap on the number of reports.
Right. So you can only generate 5 reports per month,
5 per month, yeah.
which again is still a lot.
It's still a lot, yeah.
But if you're doing like, a lot of research,
Right.
you might hit that limit.
You might, yeah.
And then there might be some other limitations that aren't as well publicized. Like
Right.
maybe there's a limit on how many requests you can make per day.
Right, or how many requests you can have running at the same time.
Right.
So you might want to experiment with that.
Yeah. See what the limits are. But overall, I think it's a pretty generous free offering.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the engineering behind deep research.
Yeah.
Because I think this is where it gets really interesting.
It is, yeah.
So we had the opportunity to talk to some of the Google engineers who worked on this project,
Yeah.
and they were really excited about it.
They were very passionate about it.
Yeah, and they described it as an agentic system.
All right, so an agent is basically an AI
Okay.
that can plan and execute tasks independently.
So it's not just like responding to my commands.
No, it's actually thinking for itself
Okay.
to some extent.
Wow.
Yeah. So it can break down complex queries into smaller steps.
Right.
It can strategize its approach.
Right.
It can reason over the information that it finds.
Wow.
And it can even self-critique.
What does that mean, self-critique?
So it can actually look at its own findings
Okay.
and say, okay, well, maybe I missed something here.
Right.
Or maybe I need to adjust my approach.
So it's like learning as it goes.
Learning as it goes, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
And the engineers said that this is like a really big breakthrough.
Yeah, they said it's one of the first examples of a truly capable AI agent in practical use.
So this is like the future of AI.
It's a glimpse into the future
Yeah.
of what AI can do.
And they said that it leverages all of Google's latest and greatest technology.
Yeah, so it's using their most advanced large language model. It's using a novel infrastructure that's designed for long-running computational tasks.
Right.
And it's using sophisticated web browsing functionalities.
So it's like all the best of Google.
All in one package.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive.
it is.
And how did they describe it to like a normal person?
Well, one of the engineers described it as a legwork doer.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so it's basically taking on all those tasks.
The tedious tasks.
The tedious tasks.
Yeah.
The research, the information gathering
Yeah.
that would normally take you hours and hours to do.
And it's just doing it for me.
It's doing it for you in the background.
So I can focus on the more important things.
The analysis, the strategy,
Yeah.
the creative thinking.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah. And they also emphasize the importance of transparency.
They did, yeah.
So they said that they wanted to make sure that users could see how the AI was working
Right.
so that they could trust it.
Yeah, because if you don't know how something is working,
Right.
it's hard to trust it.
Yeah. It's like a black box.
Exactly.
And that's why they included features like the editable research plan
Mhm.
and the list of browsed sites, expert speaker.